wall's official name is the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. It was built to honor soldiers who gave their lives in battle. They fought a war and died in a country called Vietnam. The wall stretches for nearly 500 feet. As you walk from end to end, you see that the wall is covered with names. There are 58,000 of them etched in shining black stone. Each one is the name of an American soldier.
Where's Grandpa's name, I ask? We have to find it, Dad says. He and I have come a long way for this. And we walk slowly, searching. The wall is black and shiny as a mirror. In it, I can see Dad and me.
Vietnam was the longest military engagement in American history, the most distant, the least relevant to the nation's concerns, and the most divisive in more than a century. The war affected every American. It cost more than $130 billion, siphoned money away from domestic programs, and destabilized the economy to the point of crisis. It proved that not even the richest, most powerful nation in the world had unlimited strength and resources. 2 million Americans served in Vietnam. 58,000 died there. More than 300,000 were wounded.
A man in a wheelchair stares at the names. He doesn't have legs. I'm looking, and he sees me looking, and smiles. Hi, son. Hi. His hat is a soft, squashed green, and there are medals on it. His pant legs are folded back, and his shirt is a soldier's shirt.
United States Marines head for security duty in South Vietnam. Their landing is at a beach north of Da Nang, where they will guard the American jet airfield against attack by Viet Cong guerrillas and infiltrators from North Vietnam, only 80 miles away.
In March 1965, President Johnson committed the first American combat troops to Vietnam. By the end of the year, 200,000 American servicemen were in country, with more on the way.
A woman, old as my grandma, is hugging a man, old as my grandpa would be. They're both crying. Shh, he whispers. Flowers and other things had been laid against the wall. There are little flags, an old teddy bear, and letters weighted with stones so they wouldn't blow away.
Consequences that no one can foresee, nor will we bluster or bully or flaunt our power. But we will not surrender. I have asked the commanding general what more he needs to meet this mounting aggression. He has told me, and we will meet his needs.
Grandpa yet? I ask. No, Dad says. There are so many names. They're listed under the years when they were killed. I found 1967. That's when my grandpa died. Dad runs his fingers along the rows of print. And I do too. The letters march side by side, like rows of soldiers. They're nice and even. It's better printing than I can do.
In 1965, more than 180,000 troops were committed to Vietnam. The United States was now fully involved in the Vietnam War.
Dad is searching and searching. Albert A. Jensen, Charles Bernowski. His fingers stop moving. Here he is. George Munoz. My grandpa, I ask? Dad nods. Your grandpa. My dad. He was just my age when he was killed. Dad's rubbing the name. Rubbing and rubbing as if he wants to wipe it away. Maybe he just wants to remember the way it feels. He lifts me so I can touch it too.
In 1967, life conceded that America had gone into Vietnam for honorable and sensible purposes. But the undertaking had proven harder, longer, more complicated than anticipated. The war was no longer worth winning. It was no longer something to ask young Americans to die for.
We've brought paper. Dad puts it over the letters and rubs on it with a pencil, so the paper goes dark and the letters show up white. You've got parts of other guys' names on there too, I tell him. Dad looks at the paper. Your grandpa won't mind. They were probably friends of his anyway, I say. Maybe so. A man and a boy walk past. Can we go to the river now, Grandpa? The boy asks. Yes. The man takes the boy's hand. But button your jacket. It's cold.
One of the great tragic miscalculations on the U.S. side was a failure to grasp the tenacity of the North Vietnamese will to win, the power of their nationalistic crusade, the pain they were obviously willing to bear.
My dad stands very still, with his head bent. A bunch of big girls in school uniforms come down the path. Their teachers with them. They're all carrying more of those little flags. Is this the wall for the dead soldiers, Miss Gerber? One of them asks in a loud voice. The names are the names of the dead, but the wall is for all of us, the teacher says.
Caskets have a way of concentrating the mind. And toward the end of 1967, each casket raised the same question. What are we doing there? And so it went. By war's end, 58,022 Americans had died. The overwhelming majority from small towns with a population of fewer than 100,000. Whites, blacks, Hispanics, all paying the supreme sacrifice, roughly equivalent to proportion of population. The burden and the tragedy shared by all. As 1968 dawned, another question kept being asked. How much longer?
Make a lot of noise and ask a lot of questions, and all the time, Dad just stands there, with his head bowed, and I stand beside him. The girls stick their flags in the dirt in front of the wall and leave. Then, it's quiet again. Dad folds the paper that has Grandpa's name on it and puts it in his wallet. Then he slides out a picture of me, one of those yucky ones they took in school. Mom made me wear a tie. Dad puts the picture on the grass below Grandpa's name. It blows away. I get it and put it back and pile some little stones on top. My face smiles up at me from under the stones.
Paris, the city looked upon by the world as the place of hope for peace. Mr. Swan T, head of the North Vietnamese Peace Talks delegation, arrived at the International Conference Center in the heart of Paris for his first meeting with Mr. Averill Harriman, President Johnson's chief negotiator. Preliminary talks were over. This was the time when the hard bargaining began.
Grandpa won't know who I am, I tell Dad. I think he will, Dad says. I move closer to him. It's sad here. He puts his hand on my shoulder. I know. but it's a place of honor. I'm proud that your grandfather's name is on this wall. I am too. I am.
In 1982, the country took a step towards healing with the dedication of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. It has become a site of pilgrimage for veterans and all Americans.
But I'd rather have my grandpa here, taking me to the river, telling me to button my jacket because it's cold. I'd rather have him here.